ኤቲኤም አፍደገ ዘመናዊ ትግራይ
People with disabilities have the right to inclusive, integrated, and accessible urban infrastructure and transport services that cater to their needs. However, these disadvantaged groups often face a range of social, economic, and political challenges. The consequences of these exclusions extend beyond individuals, impacting their families, communities, and society at both national and global levels. In cities of low-income countries, the challenges faced by people with disabilities remain a silent burden, endured daily.
When I go to the bank, I always stay outside. Whenever I get an opportunity to be hired by an institution, I always fear that it might not be suitable for me. Because of this, I have missed chances to work at a higher level in my profession.
People with disabilities often lack the infrastructure that many take for granted. Social stigma casts a long shadow over their lives, turning simple tasks like walking, crossing a street, using public transport, or entering public buildings into monumental challenges. In such environments, disability is not just a physical condition. It becomes a lifelong struggle against systems that were never designed to include everyone. Mekelle, the capital of Tigray, like so many cities in low-income countries, is no exception. As a result of frequent natural disasters and human-induced challenges contribute to poverty and adverse health conditions in Tigray, which in turn increase the prevalence of disabilities. It is widely believed that Mekelle is home to a significant number of people with disabilities. It has long been a place where the needs of its disabled population have gone largely unmet. The streets, the public buildings, the transport, none of it was designed with accessibility in mind. In a city where the rush of life never seems to stop, those with disabilities are often left behind. Infrastructure should be built with consideration for disabled people. Being disabled means every day is filled with unseen struggles. It's feeling limited in a limitless world, facing barriers at every turn. The objective of the study was to assess the suitability of existing transport system for people with disabilities and propose solutions for improvement. As a UN member state, Ethiopia has adopted and implemented several conventions, policies, and laws pertaining to people with disabilities. However, the inclusion of these marginalized groups in urban infrastructure and transportation systems remains largely unachieved. The attitude toward inclusive development from governmental agencies, urban planners, engineers, service providers, and the community at large is still inadequate. Therefore, it's crucial to assess the challenges faced by people with disabilities, propose practical solutions, and collaborate with various stakeholders. The research was supported by a series of literature reviews, briefings to key stakeholders, workshops, and diverse data collection efforts, interviews, focus group discussions, and field measurement and assessments. In the bustling city of Mekelle, safety and mobility challenges for people with disabilities remain a pressing issue. I know of a man who tragically died after sliding into a trench. Public building entrances and street sidewalks are not inclusive for people with disabilities. flawed design, and poor management have made pedestrian facilities inaccessible and unsafe for all pedestrian groups. Sidewalks are narrow, filled with arbitrarily placed roadside obstacles and encroachments. They are poorly managed and unclean, consisting of rough and inconsistent paving materials, with no tactile guidance or crossing ramps, making them both inaccessible and unsafe for people with disabilities. Public transport in the city is not inclusive for people with disabilities. Public vehicles are not accessible, sometimes with no space for wheelchairs. Public transport stops are limited in number, with no ramps or tactile guidance, no signage or information. The review of policy documents also showed that there are people with disabilities, inclusive policies, directives, and guidelines for public buildings, though their implementation is poor. However, the available policies, directives, and guidelines for roads and transport services are not inclusive for people with disabilities. The participation of disadvantaged groups is limited, and the awareness of government personnel, architects and engineers, and public transport providers regarding inclusive transport for people with disabilities is found to be low. Providing safe and accessible infrastructure and service for people with disabilities is not a privilege, but it's their right as equal to others.
መቀለ ታይ ትመስል ተና ለአካል ጉዳት ይኹን ለአካል ጉዳት ለጥዑይውን ምቹት ይኾነቲ ኣብ 20 ዓመት ክቕመጥ ተለኹ ታክሲ ዘን ናይ ከተማ ታክሲ ተጠቅሜ ይፈልጥ.
These stories are deeply moving, each one shedding light on the unseen struggles faced by disabled individuals in Mekelle. They reveal the harsh realities of a city built without them in mind, a city where safety and access are highly compromised. These voices cry out for change, calling for solutions that go beyond sympathy, demanding action to create a city that includes everyone. Dimtsu highlights a critical concern. Current policies fail to adequately include individuals with disabilities. These policies, he says, need significant amendments to truly serve everyone in the community. Continuous awareness programs, coupled with stronger law enforcement, can bring about positive change. Most physical barriers can be removed through simple, low-cost interventions. The Mekelle City Municipality Department of Infrastructure reflected on the significance of this research project for the city.
ናይ ቀድሞ ከዚ ለነበረ ናይ አስፋልት አሰራርሓ ተሰሪሑ ልጸንሐ ዲስኤብል ፐርሰንት ለይኾንስ ልጥዑይ ሰብ እውን አመቺ ለይኾኑ እግረኛ መንገድታት እዮም ነይሮም.
A research project carried out by Mekelle University, in which we participated at different stages, provided valuable insights. Based on these findings, a design proposal was developed for ongoing road projects. The municipality showed a real commitment to making changes that would benefit all road users, particularly people with disabilities. As a result of the proposed design modifications, sidewalk widths were increased and divided into zones using colored tactile paving. Pedestrian zones were cleared of obstacles, ramps were added at pedestrian crossings, and signage and information were provided at signalized intersections to guide disadvantaged groups. This initiative is a positive step forward, and it will continue to improve as sidewalk activities like shop and cafe extensions and street vending are better managed and coordination among stakeholders is strengthened. Cities in low-income countries must be designed and built with the understanding that every individual, regardless of ability, deserves to move freely and safely. By prioritizing accessibility, we can create environments where sidewalks are wide and clear, public transport is inclusive, and public spaces are designed with everyone in mind. It's not just about constructing infrastructure or developing a transport system, It's about creating a community that values inclusivity and equality. And it's about building a future where no one is left behind.
TPM أفدق زمناوي تجراي أبي مل علم زلهم دقفتن فتوتن ميديا حزب تجراي TPM بزاقت إلى زلالين كتدعمكم نميدياهم بتخلوا ودقف كتجبروا بتحتنا اللابو أبعد نزلهم دما بز صعب قطر حساب دقف نخت جبروا بخبر نسوع نتجبروا كل مدى وحجز أقدمنا نمسكن TPM أفدق زمناوي تجراي